Welcome everyone. Kia ora, thank you for the introduction and welcome. So I just I can say this once now so no one has to bring it up. Yes, I've had a small operation on my knee. It's well as me, but I'm probably an ACC nightmare. But I look at the profile of the people in this room, I think they should be awfully nervous about some others in this room as well. So just bear with me. Welcome to Connections Conference 2016. It's actually wonderful to see everyone here again. It doesn't seem that long ago, 12 months ago, we were all together in Auckland, listening to the likes of Peter Biggs and Tyler Hamilton. It's amazing how quickly a year can fly past. When I think about that year, I think we've had a remarkable 12 months in New Zealand sport. Some of the scenes that you've seen there, but all the way from major events, we had the Cricket World Cup, we had the FIFA World Cup. We've had many other wonderful events up and down the country. In terms of high performance, the All Blacks going back to back. We had the heroics of our Black Caps and our Silver Ferns. And the dominance of our Olympic and Paralympic athletes continues, I think, to surprise the world and make us here in New Zealand enormously proud. And I guess for both Paralympics and the Rio Olympic Games, we look forward with optimism and excitement as to how we're going to get on. Look at community sport. Look, I know a lot of people at the moment are wrestling with investments and contracting and negotiating, but if you take a wider view of that, the introduction of a new community sports strategy last year, which I think is world leading. It really is about setting a change, setting a direction of change, setting a new dial for community sport, and one that I think will take us on a new but exciting journey that will retain the high levels of participation we have in New Zealand today, and that's going to be a challenge moving forward. So, if we take the bigger picture, I think it's an exciting piece of work and look forward to it unravelling in the next 5 years. You add to that things like the physical literacy development, you add to that things like the development of coaching, you add to that the introduction of the Minister's new program, Play.Sport, to supplement things like Energise, Pathway to Podium. There's a whole lot of things that have been emerging in the last 12 months that are incredibly exciting. On top of that, see a huge amount of collaboration within this room. You only have to look at what's happening at Sports Central in Auckland and the coming together of those organisations. The NZME collaboration with quite a number of the NSOs in this room got together and sharing their sporting content across multiple platforms is an exciting new innovation for sport in New Zealand and media in New Zealand. So for those groups that gather together, that's fantastic. And we've seen lots of opportunity and examples of various people in this room now collaborating across government and providing opportunities for other government agencies to be involved in sport. So on any record, you could say, we've done particularly well, and we continue to do well, which I think is really heartening. But I don't think we can sit back. The world of high performance, as Alex keeps telling us, is getting faster and faster and more competitive. More countries are winning more medals, more countries are investing more, and we need to keep the momentum of that high performance program moving forward. When it comes to participation, we know that the world is changing and changing quickly. Our flat participation line when the rest of the world is falling is a real challenge for all of us. Ethnic diversity, urbanisation, sedentary lifestyles, technology, all of those things are having a major impact on how people are participating and how they want to participate going in the future. So those things are going to have a huge impact on us as we wrestle with those big issues moving forward. And finally, I guess all of us sitting here now are corporately challenged. It is a tough time. I understand boards and CEOs are really wrestling with some difficult issues of sustainability, of looking at their top line, the revenue that they get in, looking at how they manage the likes of volunteers, all the way through to things like compliance and the new health and safety laws that are here now. All of those are quite complex and quite challenging. I think there is a great appreciation of what we've done to date, but unfortunately I don't think that's going to sustain us enough as we move forward. So one of those big changes that we contemplated was the movement away from thinking about sport in general to start thinking about the participant, about being far more demand-driven than we have been supply-driven. So last year, we dedicated the conference to understanding the customer. And from the feedback that we received from that conference, I think everyone really, really enjoyed it and thought it was a really good conference, thought-provoking. And what we're really heartened to see is so many people now using databases, using data, mining that data for insights, are looking at changing their competition structures, changing the formats of their organisations and their competitions to align with what their partners and what their customers actually want. So that's fantastic. So this year we turn our attention to another challenging area, if that's going to go, that of working in a complex system. The concept of leading in a complex time and in and out of complex systems. It's all about understanding more about the system that we work in today. The attributes, the complexities, the people, the organisations and the interdependencies. It's all about being system-led. But also, we need to understand how we work into that system better, and that's about systems thinking. So we're bringing those two notions together for the next 2 days around being system-led and about system thinking. I think we all understand that we are leading our organisations in a time of unparalleled change. Traditional models based on stability are probably now less relevant than what they were in the future. New models and new ways of thinking are emerging, founded on times of instability, and these are emerging quickly, and we have to be aware of them. The challenge that we have is trying to solve many of the problems that we have within our organisations in a multifaceted environment. Everything is connected in some way. Everything is networked in some way. A small change in one area can have a massive impact in another, such as the sector and the system that we're working in today. We have to appreciate there are far more people playing in yours and ours collective sandpit than ever before. This sector that we have now is getting bigger and bigger. As the value of sport expands, more people are entering and joining our sector than ever before. Do we understand who they are? Do we understand how they can contribute? And do they understand what you bring to that sandpit? As we power up our system, which is what we want to do, are we really focusing in the right areas? It begs the question, do we understand our system well enough? And do we understand how best to work back into that system? I've worked in the sports sector a long time, and right now, and I'm sure for many of you, it's probably the most complex time that I can remember. You know, I give you a couple of things that happened last week, and this is just 1 week in our lives, and I'm sure all of you, if you reflect on it, would consider that you've had similar sorts of experiences. We got introduced with the AC Nielsen report last week, talking about the change in participation, the change between the growth of the likes of walking versus rugby. We also had, I had a conversation with Barry Meister from the Olympic Committee about the growth of action sports and the desire to have things like rock climbing and surfing and skateboarding in the Olympic Games that would not have been thought of 4 years ago. I was talking to a group that worked with Phil Gibbons working here in Wellington, looking at a regional facility plan, and the conversation they had with a whole lot of council members and officials, and just how complex world that is of bringing 4, 5, 6, 7 councils together and trying to work your way through that maze to try and get everyone on the same page. We had the introduction of the conversation around a sugar tax, and we've had conversations with our health colleagues around a sugar tax. I'd have to say I don't think it's likely in New Zealand, but the concept of that and the impact it has on obesity is enormous. We also had the announcement this last week of a doctor in the UK who has admitted to prescribing performance-enhancing drugs to a whole range of different athletes. Some of those athletes we know could be heading to Rio. The question that leaves you in your mind as a leader is this happening in New Zealand? Also had a conversation with a group of people around Gary Carnigan and the Secondary School Sports Council wanting to go into Education Department to talk about the Health and Safety Act that's come in and how debilitating that could be on people's and schools' ability to actually put sport on and let kids be free and play on the playground. It's a huge issue in front of us right now. Probably the last one was Lotto. You know, all of you have heard some commentary in the media. You know, the vagaries of Lotto and the profitability up when there's been jackpots, and we haven't had very many of those recently. As a result of that, we are likely, or we're predicting now, that we're going to have $20 million less coming to Sport New Zealand out to you, $20 million less over 4 years. 2014 to 2018, $20 million less than we thought. Now, we're not doing what that Creative New Zealand has done and basically discounted everyone by about 10%. What we're really trying to do is to preserve the frontline investment to you as partners and look at other ways in which we can absorb those costs. But they are significant, and that is a real complexity for us inside Sport New Zealand. Now, that's 1 week of one year, the types of issues that we get fronted with. They are enormously complex. They are not single issues to be dealt with. They have a lot of other stakeholders involved, and they are complex. Now, I'm sure if you reflect on your last week, I'm sure you could all relate to the same thing, that we do today work in a very complicated and very difficult environment. This concept of systems thinking and being system-led is not new. You know, this is now commonplace business thinking around the world, and you're going to hear that from a number of the guest speakers that we have today. There are conferences around the world now, and business best thinkers are thinking about complex thinking and working into a complex environment. Lots of sectors are going through that same thought processes now. So it seems to me absolutely right that as a sector, while we think we know a lot about our system and the way we work in it, I would think we need to be challenged on that and look at what is our sports system, how can we work into it better, and that's what the conference is dedicated the next 2 days. One of the things that we've done to help that conversation is to create a framework, if you like, of looking at describing a world-leading system. So what we've tried to do is look at those attributes that have the greatest impact on participation and on winning. And look, this is not meant to be the definitive. It's meant to be only a guide. It's only meant to be an opportunity to center the conversation around a number of things. Those 5 attributes look at the environment, which is all about our culture. It looks at the capability, which is the engine room of our system. It looks at the resources, which is the fuel our system runs off. It looks at intelligence, which is the smarts, and it looks at the connectivity, the fabric that makes up a system. Second thing we've done is we've invited some world-leading thinkers here for the next 2 days to challenge us on those 5 attributes and to actually unpick them a little bit more so we understand a little bit more about them. It's really hard to cover off all of that in 2 days. So we are picking a number of different themes as we go across the 2 days. More than anything, it is around capability. And capability talks to people, capability talks to workforce, and capability talks to leadership. And the leadership of our system sits in this room today. So we have the Director of Present Leadership Consulting, Peter Lowry, is with us. We have prominent lawyer, May Chen, who's going to be talking about super diversity and the future living and working inside New Zealand. We have Hamish Wilson and Andy Clayton from Deloitte, who are going to talk about the Global Human Capital Survey. We've got Chief of Defence Force, Lieutenant General Tim Keating, talking about the complexities of our armed forces and how he works that. We've got John Allen, who will close the conference tomorrow. John has worked across government in many roles with Post, with MFAT, and now with the Racing Board, and just that leadership across those areas and working into a complex system. When we talk about the environment, we're very fortunate to have the investigative international journalist and world-leading expert on sport corruption, Declan Hill, is with us, so that's going to be a very entertaining presentation tomorrow. When it comes to intelligence, we have social sector entrepreneur Dame Diane Robinson, who's going to talk about utilisation of power and data to create greater economic and social value. And finally, we've got one on resources. This is about the fuel for the system. We'll have a panel discussion on the fuel for the system, including our friends from the gaming area, from community investors, and the energy sector as well. So that should be a thoroughly enjoyable presentation. So I think all of us here know that we are challenged in the world that we work in today. It's pretty complex, it's full of ambiguity, and sometimes we're unsure about the way forward. I think all appreciate here that our jobs are busy, and typically we are head down, juggling multiple priorities with multiple people. This conference is deliberately about setting yourself apart from that day-to-day business. It is about the opportunity of getting out of the field of play for a while and standing on the balcony. It gives you the ability to start thinking about concepts like about complex thinking in a complex world and about being system led. You know, it's very hard to do that when you're out in the swamp trying to drain the swamp and watch out for the alligators. So really for you, it's about stepping away for a moment in time and allowing you the space to be able to think about and to share your thoughts with other people that are here. The conference very much also is about connectivity. It is called the Connections Conference for, as a purpose, which is really around you in this room, the collective wisdom that we have here, that we can gain the energy from each other and connect and listen and be able to understand other perspectives and learn from that. So it's very much around bringing you all together to learn, to listen, to contribute and to network. The conference is also about being challenged, and hopefully, and I know, the speakers that we have the next 2 days are really going to challenge us. It is also about being entertained. I know we'll be entertained by the guest speakers, but also at the awards dinner tonight. It's one of those annual things we always look forward to, is celebrating success and acknowledging those that have done particularly well throughout the year. So look, I thank you very much for being here, for giving up 2 days of your busy time. I hope that the conference meets your expectation. I certainly hope it gives you a chance to connect, to reconnect, to reflect, to refocus, to recharge, and to come away with some 3 or 4 really, really good ideas that you can take back to your organisation and look to be more effective in your role as an important leader in the sector. So enjoy. Thank you.